Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Monday, and welcome back to our series on the Celtic Triads. This week we're going to be looking at 3 errors not acknowledged. Now, the translation and the compilation I've been examining is by John F. Wright, who was published in 1995. So let's see what it has to say. 3 errors not acknowledged: fear of an enemy, torment of love, and a jealous person's evil suspicion of their mate. So this triad draws our attention to how our emotions can prey upon us when we allow ourselves to become overpowered by them. I mean, it's one thing to feel our feelings, and that's perfectly fine, but it's quite another to allow them to rule the roost, and that's at the root of the error. And I think this triad has particular significance for us in the modern day, with the supremacy of emotion being an ideology that is constantly pushed, despite the obvious drawbacks to people, the destructive effect it has on their lives, and how it makes them far easier to manipulate and control. So there's definitely some wisdom we can be gleaning from this particular triad. So let's break it down a little bit. First, we'll begin with fear of an enemy. To begin with, no enemy we face is all-powerful, or all-knowing, or all-seeing. They simply are not. Anyone can be defeated, even if the pathway to that defeat isn't readily apparent. So focusing on your fear will not help you when you confront your opponents, or when you're trying to refute an idea, or when you're trying to change something within your society. The fear is what's going to hold you back. Next, we have the torment of love. Now, wild passion can be pretty incredible. It has its proper place and its proper time. But no one can exist within that emotional state all of the time. So if a relationship is always in the throes of this kind of high drama, it really raises the question of whether or not there is genuine love between the people involved, or if it's just two people feeding each other's exaggerated need for theatrics. And it can be exhausting to everyone, not just the people in the relationship, but anyone who happens to come into contact with them. And it can cause people within the relationship and the relationship itself to just run out of fuel and then crash, burn, and then, then there's a whole other drama to contend with. And the third part of this triad is a jealous person's evil suspicion of their mate. So jealousy is essentially a projection of insecurities most of the time, and it's no way to approach a relationship. And worse, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You fear someone's going to leave you, you tell them about your fear, you drive them to absolute distraction about it, and then they do leave to get a break from your hysteria, if nothing else, and then you conclude that your jealousy and your insecurities were right all along, and you failed to learn the proper lesson about the experience. Instead of seeing that the jealousy, the excessive jealousy and the paranoia and the fear is actually what caused the end of the relationship, you think that it was simply a premonition of the end that was unavoidable and fated, and isn't the other person horrible for this hideous betrayal? I mean, misplaced jealousy, this is not about patrolling the borders. It's not about being protective of the relationship. It's about possession and a fear of the loss of that possession. So there's some yucky stuff involved in that. So now, how can we use the wisdom in each aspect of this triad? We'll go back to the first one, and which had to do with fear of an enemy. We shouldn't be giving our opponents an easy victory by psyching ourselves out. There's always a psychological aspect to conflict. In a way, that's where the battle takes place before anything else happens, before the first word is spoken, before, in the case of physical conflicts such as war, before, the first shot is fired. It's always psychological first. That's why Sun Tzu is quoted as saying that wars are won in their temples before they're ever fought. It's about that psychological aspect of it. So if we are building up fear in our minds, it's going to weaken our resolve and weaken our ability to act, and even weaken our ability to accurately assess the situation. It is absolutely a form of self-sabotage. So if we are exercising self-control and we learn how to successfully manage our fear and confront it, it will build up inner strength, and that will make us more useful when we do find ourselves in some kind of conflict, whether it's a physical physical conflict or otherwise. Now, about the let's see, the second aspect, which was the torment of love. Loving someone does not mean that you tear yourself to pieces over them. Now, this also doesn't mean that you are rejecting passion or that you seek out only a very humdrum kind of relationship. What it is about is that you need to be able to function in day-to-day life. I'm sorry, even in the most wildly passionate love affair, you're still going to have very boring chores like doing the laundry or paying the bills, and the grass probably needs to get mowed sometime. There's always going to be mundane tasks of life, and you need to be able to do them. And it's to your benefit to have a life partner that isn't preventing you from taking care of these responsibilities and who can also uphold their own end of the bargain and take care of their responsibilities. And a successful relationship is going to have this natural ebb and flow, like the tides coming in, going out. But if you and your partner are only in tsunami mode, then you might want to rethink about what's going on because there's clearly a problem in that relationship dynamic. And I want to emphasize it doesn't mean that you're with the wrong person or that you are the wrong person for them, only that you are in a destructive pattern. And you might be able to fix that. That's something to explore. And then the last bit about the evil suspicions of your spouse, the persistent feelings of jealousy. It is poison. It allows the jealous person to pretend that everyone else is the problem rather than deal with why they're constantly afraid of being abandoned, why they're constantly afraid of betrayal, why they are thinking deep down that they'll always be alone and then they self-sabotage until they are alone. I think the more vulnerable someone feels on that front, the more likely they are to unwisely seek refuge in jealousy. The potency of that emotion gives them a false sense of strength and resolve. And it also gives them the false impression that they're somehow doing something, that they're being proactive. No, no, you're not. The only thing you're actively doing is deconstructing your relationship. It's a very elaborate and self-destructive way to avoid the hard work of self-improvement. In the long run, you're much better off just facing whatever you need to face, dealing with it, and understanding that your insecurities, your hysterias, your fears are not the only thing that is real in the universe. There's all these other textures, all these other layers, and that we might discover that this will help us gain perspective and keep some of these less desirable traits in their proper place. So I thought that was a pretty good triad. I'd love to hear what you have to think about it. And view of that, you are very welcome to come and visit me at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There's a link to join in the description box below. In the meantime, please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.